I was watching some Tiny Toon Adventure episodes the other day, and it's making me think with things like Looney Tunes and Disney, Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, and many other shows of the short-stitch parody genre. A lot of it can be a time capsule of its era. A lot of these cartoons make references to pop culture, recent current events, and the celebrities of the time. Things that you instantly recognize back then, but as time goes on, these characters and so forth become less and less recognizable. There was a time when everybody knew who Roseanne Barr was, who Jay Leno was, who Dirty Harry was, who David Letterman was, who Arsenio Hall was, who Bill Clinton was, and Regis Philbin was. And there was a time when everybody knew Laurel and Hardy and Jack Benny and Orson Welles and the Marx Brothers. And there was a time when people knew who Cary Grant was. There was a time when people knew Sonny and Cher and the Monkees and all of these other celebrities. A time when the world was threatened by Saddam Hussein, or when it had to deal with the Ayatollah or Ross Perot. So many different names from history and movies and TV shows and things of that nature. All sorts of different politicians, all kinds of technologies like the Super Nintendo, or the idea of having a second telephone line. Telephones still having cords, telephones with party lines, telephones with rotary dials. There are so many movies and technologies, Batman, Pee Wee Herman, so many different things throughout our histories that get captured in our pop culture. All of the references made by cartoons and movies are, they're popular of that era, but then give it 10 or 20 years and you go and you look at these cartoons and you try to figure out who were some of these celebrities. What was the deal with that technology? What was with that music? What was with that reference? Why did they say this or go here? Why was this event a big deal? With the earthquake being in the news, or what Roseanne Barr did during the World Series being in the news. The time when Mike Tyson was a big deal and he hadn't yet bitten anyone's ear off yet. There are so many little things throughout our history that just gets captured in our cartoons, and it serves like a time capsule to that era. And now, 10, 20, 15 years later, looking back on this kind of stuff, I find it fascinating to watch all of these things and think, man, there was a time when that was relevant. Man, there's a thing that I had forgotten for all this time. Or, man, there's a character that I still recognize, or maybe there's one that I don't recognize anymore. Or, there was a time when certain movies were relevant and new and fresh, and now it all seems so old and forgotten. And as time goes by, it's going to be harder and harder to connect these references to the thing that they used to reference. But maybe they'll stir up some curiosity about what that used to be about too. Anyhow, just thinking about how there used to be a time when all of that stuff was fresh and relevant and mattered, and how over the years we no longer pay attention to what that stuff was, or no longer remember it or follow it, or we've moved on to something else. Nowadays we're all about Jurassic World and Batman versus Superman, Star Wars Episode 7, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Spider-Man reboots, stuff like that. We no longer care about Hook or Mrs. Doubtfire or Batman and Robin, Batman Forever. Those things are all old and we got new stuff to care about. It also makes me wonder what would happen if these old shows were still around and took that same poking fun of-ness that they had and poked fun of today's celebrities and TV shows and movies. What would Animaniacs or Tiny Toons do if they got a hold of Justin Bieber or Britney Spears or Miley Cyrus or the Kardashians? What kinds of jokes could we get away with if we got to do an episode featuring Ant-Man or Iron Man or the rebooted Spider-Man? I think I'll leave that for the comments section below. One of two topics that you can start in the comments. Either talk about things that are part of your personal nostalgia that you remember used to be a thing and were parts of shows like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and other similar things of that era, or talk about what of today's era do you wish they were still putting into cartoons and referencing and poking fun of. Anyhow, thank you for watching and good night.